Emma, since you're already in the kitchen, you might as well help serve the appetizers. My mother's voice carried that familiar tone of dismissal as she adjusted my sister Victoria's designer dress. The catering staff is short-handed, and you know where everything goes. I stood there in my carefully chosen evening gown, a glass of untouched champagne in my hand, watching as my family transformed our childhood home into a shrine to Victoria's engagement. At 32, I was the CEO of my own charitable foundation, managing millions in philanthropic funds, including the substantial backing of my family's beloved community center. Yet here I was, being relegated to kitchen duty at my sister's engagement party. But Mom, Victoria pouted, her perfectly manicured hands smoothing down her dress. Emma's wearing Valentino. Wouldn't it be awful if she spilled something on it? The concern in her voice was as fake as her eyelashes. Then she should have worn something more practical, my mother replied, not even bothering to look in my direction. Emma, dear, the mini quitches need to go out first. I felt my jaw tighten, but years of boardroom negotiations had taught me to maintain composure. Mom, I'm a guest, not catering staff. Don't be difficult, she snapped. Your sister's future in-laws are here. The Hamiltons are very important people, and everything needs to be perfect. You're good at organizing things. That's your strong suit, isn't it? Right, because running a multi-million-dollar foundation was just organizing things. Victoria's fiancé, James Hamilton, heir to the Hamilton real estate empire, chose that moment to walk in. Ah, there's my beautiful bride-to-be. He wrapped an arm around Victoria's waist, completely ignoring my presence. The guests are asking about appetizers. Emma's handling it, Victoria chirped, shooting me a smug look. She's so good at serving. I felt something inside me crack. For years, I'd watched Victoria get everything, the praise, the attention, the support. When she dropped out of college to find herself in Europe, our parents funded her 2-year adventure. When I graduated summa cum laude and started my foundation, they barely attended the ceremony because Victoria had a modeling casting call. Now, as I stood in my designer dress, being ordered to serve food at my sister's engagement party, I realized nothing had changed. To them, I would always be the reliable one, the invisible one, the one who could be taken for granted. Actually, I said, placing my champagne glass down with deliberate care, I have a call with our Tokyo office in 10 minutes. You'll need to find someone else to serve. Tokyo office? James coughed. What could be so important about your little charity work that you can't help at your own sister's engagement? Little charity work. If only he knew that his family's latest development project relied heavily on funding from my little charity. My mother's face darkened. Emma, you will not embarrass us in front of the Hamiltons. The Tokyo office can wait. I checked my phone, a small smile playing on my lips. The board members of the Hamilton Foundation are actually on this call too. Shall I tell them you said hello? For the first time that evening, uncertainty flickered across James's face. The Hamilton Foundation? Why would they be? Oh, didn't Victoria tell you? My little charity is the primary funding partner for your family's community development projects. We're finalizing the details for the next phase tonight. The color drained from James's face. Victoria's smug smile faltered. Now, if you'll excuse me, I said, smoothing down my Valentino. I have some important organizing to do. As I walked toward the study, I heard my mother's harsh whisper, Victoria, why didn't you tell us Emma's foundation was involved with the Hamiltons? I didn't know, Victoria stammered. She never talks about work. No, I thought to myself, they never asked about my work. They were too busy planning perfect parties and managing Victoria's image to notice that their reliable daughter had built something significant. In the study, I closed the door and sat at my father's old desk. There was no call with Tokyo, not tonight anyway. But as I opened my laptop and looked at the funding approval for the Hamiltons' latest project sitting in my inbox, unsigned, I realized something had shifted. For years, I'd let them treat me like a background character in Victoria's starring role. I'd funded their projects, supported their causes, and stayed quiet when they dismissed my achievements. But watching them out there, planning another celebration where I was expected to serve rather than be served, I knew it was time for a change. I pulled up the foundation's database where every donation to my family's beloved community center was listed. Victoria was on their board, her only real job, appointed by our parents to give her some semblance of responsibility. The center was her pride and joy, the one thing she claimed to care about besides herself. My finger hovered over the keyboard as I thought about all the times I'd been pushed aside, told to serve, expected to give while never receiving. The Foundation's next quarterly funding review was coming up. Perhaps it was time for my family to learn exactly what my little charity work meant to their perfect world. The morning after Victoria's engagement party, I sat in my office overlooking the city, reviewing the quarterly funding reports. My assistant, Kate, entered with my morning coffee and a concerned expression. "Your mother has called 6 times already," she said, placing the cup on my desk. "And your sister sent an email marked urgent regarding the community center's annual gala." I smiled, taking a sip of coffee. I assumed they finally looked at the updated funding roster. The one where the community center's grant is listed as pending review? Yes, I believe that's what triggered the panic. The phone on my desk buzzed again. My mother's number. "Emma." Her voice was shrill when I finally answered. "There must be some mistake. Victoria just called me crying about the community center's funding being cut." "That can't be right." "Not cut, Mom. Just under review. Standard procedure for all our grant recipients." But this is different. This is family. The center's gala is next month, and Victoria's been planning it for ages. The Hamiltons are expecting a big announcement about their new development project. Of course they were. The project that needed my foundation's approval. The one they hadn't bothered to mention to me while I was serving appetizers. "That's interesting," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "No one mentioned the gala to me last night. I was too busy in the kitchen, remember?" Silence on the other end. "Then, is that what this is about? You're punishing Victoria because we asked for your help at her engagement party?" "No, Mom. This is about fiscal responsibility. The Foundation's board requires all grant recipients to demonstrate community impact and proper fund management. I'll need to see the center's complete financial records and impact reports for the last 3 years." 3 years? She sounded faint. "But Victoria only took over the bookkeeping last year. Before that, everything was informal." Informal. Code for non-existent. I'd suspected as much. "Then that's where we'll start. Have Victoria send over whatever records she has. The board meets next week to finalize the quarterly allocations." "Next week? But the gala?" "Isn't my primary concern. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting with the Hamilton Foundation in 10 minutes. After hanging up, I turned to Kate. "How long until Victoria shows up in person?" "Given downtown traffic, 20 minutes, tops." It took 17. Victoria burst into my office, her perfect makeup slightly smudged from tears, clutching a disorganized pile of papers. "You can't do this," she wailed, dropping the papers on my desk. "The community center is my life. The gala is my moment to show James's family what I can do." I picked up the scattered documents, noting credit card statements mixed with handwritten IOUs. "Your moment? What exactly have you done with the $500,000 in funding we provided last year?" She blinked, mascara smearing slightly. "Well, we had events. Important ones. And community things." "Things," I repeated flatly. "I see. And these events, like the luxury wine tasting you charged to the center's account, how do they serve our mission of youth education and elderly care?" Victoria's face flushed. "That was networking. For donations." "Interesting. And did any donations materialize from your networking?" She shifted uncomfortably. "Not yet, but—" "What about the 3 staff members who resigned last month? The ones with actual social work degrees?" "They weren't fitting the center's new image." I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister. She'd always been the pretty one, the charming one, the one our parents thought could do no wrong. But charm couldn't hide financial mismanagement, and beauty couldn't cover up incompetence. "Victoria, the foundation isn't Mom and Dad. We don't run on image. We run on results." "Please," she whispered, her voice small for the first time I could remember. "The Hamiltons, if they find out about this, find out that their featured daughter-in-law has been treating the community center like her personal party fund? Yes, that would be unfortunate." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'll do anything. Just, please don't let this fall apart." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the perfect makeup and designer clothes, I saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. Fear of being exposed as less than perfect, fear of losing her carefully constructed image. "Anything?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She nodded desperately. I pulled out a folder I prepared earlier. The foundation is implementing new oversight measures at the center. You'll step down from the board, effective immediately. We'll bring in professional management and you'll spend the next 6 months volunteering. Actually volunteering, not networking, with our youth programs. Volunteering? She looked horrified. But my schedule is suddenly very open. Unless you prefer, I share these financial records with the Hamilton Foundation. Victoria grabbed the folder, her hands shaking. When do I start? I smiled, thinking of all those times I've been told to serve, to help, to stay in the kitchen. Today, the after-school program needs help serving snacks to the kids. Try not to spill anything on your designer dress. The community center's annual gala looked very different from what Victoria had originally planned. Gone were the crystal champagne fountains and caviar stations she'd ordered. Instead, the walls showcased photographs of actual community impact: elderly residents in computer literacy classes, teenagers in coding workshops, and yes, my sister in an apron serving snacks to kids after school. I stood at the entrance, greeting board members and donors, when my mother appeared, looking uncomfortable in a modest black dress. "Emma," she said, wringing her hands. "Everything looks different. Different good or different bad?" She glanced around at the success stories displayed on banners, the elderly residents proudly demonstrating their new tech skills to guests. Just different. Victoria's been different too. Working with actual people instead of planning parties tends to do that. Before she could respond, James Hamilton approached with his parents. The past month had been interesting for him, discovering that his fiancée's little charity work sister controlled a significant portion of his family's development funding. "Emma," he said, extending his hand. "Remarkable transformation of the center. Our foundation's board is impressed with the new direction." "Thank you, James. It's amazing what proper management can accomplish." I turned to his parents. "I believe we have that meeting tomorrow about Phase 2 funding." Mrs. Hamilton nodded enthusiastically. "We've reviewed your proposal. The focus on sustainable community development is exactly what we've been looking for." My mother's eyes widened at their exchange. All these years, she pushed Victoria into society events, convinced that charm and connections were everything. Now she was watching her overlooked daughter discuss multi-million-dollar deals with the very family she'd been so desperate to impress. Victoria arrived then, not in her usual designer wear, but in the center's staff polo shirt. She'd spent the day setting up with the other volunteers, something the old Victoria would have considered beneath her. "The youth coding demonstration is ready," she said, professional and focused. "And Mr. Peterson from the senior center wants to show everyone his new digital art gallery." I noticed dark smudges under her carefully concealed makeup, evidence of actual work rather than social planning. But there was something else too. Pride. Real pride, not the artificial kind that came from wearing the right clothes or knowing the right people. "Well done," I said, meaning it. "Why don't you give the Hamiltons a tour?" As Victoria led them away, I overheard James saying, "You never told me you were interested in actual community work." My mother touched my arm. "Emma, I think I owe you an apology." I turned to her, surprised. In 32 years, I'd never heard those words from her lips. "All these years," she continued, "we pushed Victoria into the spotlight because we thought she needed it more. She was the pretty one, the social one. We thought we were helping her succeed. But you built something meaningful without your help." She flinched. "Yes, and we didn't see it. Worse, we took advantage of it. Use your success to prop up Victoria's image. Made you serve at parties when you should have been the guest of honor." I watched Victoria across the room, earnestly explaining the center's new programs to potential donors. "Sometimes serving others is exactly what we need to grow." "Is that why you did this?" Made her volunteer instead of just cutting the funding. I smiled. "The foundation isn't about punishment, Mom. It's about impact." Victoria needed to learn that real value isn't about appearances. Sometimes it's about getting your hands dirty. Later that evening, as the gala wound down, Victoria found me in our old favorite spot, the center's small kitchen. "There's something I need to say," she began, fiddling with her name badge. "I've been awful to you. For years. I took advantage of your success while mocking your work. I let my fiancé disrespect you. I watched Mom and Dad treat you like the help, and I enjoyed it because it made me feel special. And now?" I asked, genuinely curious. Now I understand what you built. These past months, working with the kids, seeing actual changes in people's lives. It's real. More real than all the parties and connections I thought were so important. She took a deep breath. James and I are postponing the wedding. I want to earn my place on the center's board properly this time. Learn the business side, understand the impact metrics, maybe even get that social work degree I dismissed before. I study my sister, seeing determination replace the old entitlement in her eyes. The foundation is always looking for qualified program directors. Really? Hope flickered across her face. You'd give me another chance. No, I said firmly. You'll have to earn it. But this time, I'll know you're doing it for the right reasons. Victoria nodded, then gestured to the kitchen around us. Remember when Mom made you serve appetizers at my engagement party? Hard to forget. Well, the next time we have a family event, I'll be right here with you in the kitchen. Not because anyone made us, but because sometimes the best way to lead is to serve. I smiled, thinking of how far we'd come from that night of bitter realizations and planned revenge. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. It's about helping them build a better one. Come on, I said, handing her an apron. Let's help clean up. We've got real work to do tomorrow.